what's evolved over the last 5+ years, particularly in California, and now we're seeing it outside of in states outside California, is the requirements of regulatory compliance. We're seeing the establishment of very structured wildfire mitigation plans is a huge driver nowadays. And so the compliance to that, in California, we're seeing the establishment of OEIS, Office of Emergency Infrastructure Safety, that is now actively involved in setting guidelines and standards for the wildfire modeling and for the risk modeling. 5 years ago, that wasn't even at play, right? So now we're seeing these sort of regulatory drivers first and foremost that are really coming to play. And again, not just in California, we're seeing these in other states start to happen, California, Washington, et cetera, right? But we're also seeing the business aspects start to play. We knew that insurance was a big thing for the investor-owned utilities, and I believe that was one of the drivers for SDG&E in the early days and everything. We're seeing investment, again, particularly with investor-owned utilities, right? Their willingness to invest, particularly with climate change. I think fire is pretty well proven that climate change is real, independent of the source of it. And that's impacting many natural things, and fire is one of them. You just look at what's happened in the last 5 to 10 years with fires. Credit risk is a large one. We've seen PG&E's credit rating be increased over the last couple of years, really because of their dedication to dealing with fire modeling and particularly risk mitigation for fire. And that's made a huge difference for them. And now you also starting to see some of the requirements from, community governments out there. So it's a much more structured environment now, and there's a lot more, if you will, external drivers than there used to be. And it's evolved a lot in the last 5 years. And again, evolving outside of California now, so that the challenges that they thought were a California problem, of course, are now not. And again, tragic events recently have shown us that that's the case.
We talked about how advanced modeling of wildfire risks can help utilities estimate the benefits from specific mitigation efforts. Can you tell us about how utilities can communicate their model-driven successes?
One of the things, Chris, that we've seen over the last few years is the larger investor-owned utilities that got going early on this, like SDG&E, PG&E, SoCal Edison, really enhance their ability to document to the public and to their customers what they're doing, particularly around PSPS in particular. Never mind the standardization of the wildfire mitigation plans. We're now seeing websites to the public available with maps showing de-energization areas, showing high-risk areas, showing wind conditions, things that the public couldn't readily go. You'd have to hunt around to a whole variety of different websites to get that. I know in the solutions we provide to them, the ability to summarize things as maps, not just data tables, dashboards, for operating districts are really critical. And now we're seeing our customers start to share that outside. I'm seeing actually a real paradigm shift. We're seeing this in the fire management agencies, with leading agencies like CAL FIRE, where we always reported on how many structures lost, how many acres burned, how many serious injuries and fatalities, unfortunately. Now we're seeing a shift because remember, 95% of those fires, those agencies put out, and nobody knows about it because they do a good job. You only hear about the ones that got away, typically in extreme weather scenarios, right? But now we actually can start to report on how many successes we had. How many fires did we avert? How many structures did we save? How many people did we save, right? And you can see that from the fire management perspective. And now you're starting to see it from the electric utility industry, starting to document, hey, we had to turn off power here, but here's what could have been, here's what we saved. And because of this, your reliability has actually gone on, because if we didn't do this and we didn't implement this technology, we perhaps could have had significant impacts because of those fires. It's taken a long time to happen, but it's a bit of a trend we're starting to see now. And a big part of that is communicating the information they find out. It's all about public safety, right? Public and firefighter safety out there. And the more we can communicate and educate the public, creating that awareness, I think the better it will be. Not just from a business perspective, but from really a reliability perspective. And then there can be a real understanding of what the investment that the electric utility industry has made. They've been the large drivers of fire science and operationalizing that science well beyond many of our fire management agencies, simply because of the budgets available to them and that regulatory push. And now you're seeing that technology actually ripple down into the fire management agencies. Obviously, CAL FIRE was one that jumped on very early, and they are right up there with the top of the investor-owned utilities. But you're seeing it ripple down now. So it's exciting because now that information is getting shared. And of course, the technology of everybody having a computer in their hand that they call a phone is now, facilitating the access to that information. I think we're going to see continued improvement in that regard of the sharing of this information and the transparency of the information. And when we look back about how it was 5, 10 years ago, boy, there's been a lot of great changes.